Okay, wonderful. It's a great pleasure for me to have this panel here and have you all guests be here and represent the effort we take in Europe to promote and go beyond what the current state of research and innovation is in extended reality, or some people refer to it as spatial computing. I think a good definition is to say it embraces virtual, augmented, and mixed reality technologies to create new services, applications, and technologies. So shall we do a very quick self-introduction, name and project, and then what we have planned, since not all projects time-wise were able to get a presentation slot, is that there's two projects, XRECO and TRANSMIXR. They will give us a quick introduction so you have a better understanding, and we will also get a quick introduction into the virtual worlds from Anwar Jad, who joined our panel on short notice. We're very glad and honored to have you here. So yeah, my name is Volker Helzle. I've organized this track and I'm in charge of research and development at Filmakademie Baden-Württemberg, Animationsinstitut.
My name is Markus Korhonen. I'm the director of Aalto Studios, which is the Future Media Center at Aalto University. And I'm here with the EMIL project. Shortly about my background, so I'm a film director by training. I started my career directing adverts in London. Quickly, because I love numbers. Then I ended up being an executive producer very quickly. And then I moved back to Finland. I worked with the National Broadcasting Company, then producing everything from big sporting events like a World Athletics to drama series and some entertainment shows as well. And then I started doing investment projects, so studio renewals and these sorts of things, and now at Aalto University.
My name is Chris Ebeling. I'm the director of Beyond Horizon, which is a digital consulting company. My background is almost 2 decades in the animation and VFX space, from being an animator on films like the Lego movies and Happy Feets and digital artist on Great Gatsby, to then also helping create a world-first industry-led academy called the UTS Animalogic Academy in Sydney, Australia. And that's where we found there was a big need for industry getting closer to education to fill the skills gap that we're currently seeing, and currently seeing at a bigger stage. I've since also moved into entrepreneurial space. We're focusing on metaverse and blockchain and AI. Yes, on my LinkedIn it's buzzy. But no, there's actually a growth in these sectors as well. And you know, when we talk about XR, I also believe the metaverse belongs in there somewhere, especially with digital asset ownership. So it's an exciting time. I am representing today PANEURAMA project, which is a European Innovation Alliance funded by Erasmus, where we are coming together with a lot of great partners and associate partners and some of the best schools in Europe to bridge the gap between students and industry into new sectors, not just entertainment, not just games, but also across other sectors as well.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I turned it on. I was afraid I turned it off. So I'm Nico Patz. I work for DW Innovation. That's Deutsche Welle, public service broadcaster, broadcasting to the world. And I've been involved in multiple multidisciplinary research projects in all sorts of topics, but often with a focus on interaction and storytelling. So I eventually ended up in the XR strand of the innovation team, and I'm now coordinating XRECO, and you will hear about that in a few minutes.
Thank you. I'm Anne Bajar. I'm from the European Commission, Deputy Head of Unit in DG Connect, and we are the unit in charge of the virtual roles and Web 4.0 strategy, which means that it includes extended reality, metaverses, interactive technologies, and so on. And I've been already for 20 years in the Commission now. Before I was in charge of robotics and artificial intelligence, two other hype things. You have one.
I have my own. I'm Sarah Coppola-Nicholson. I'm head of research program at Disguise, representing MAXR, of which you've heard already a lot, so I'm not going to repeat it.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Niall Murray. I'm a senior lecturer from the Technological University of the Shannon in the centre of Ireland. So in terms of my background, I spent 10 years approximately working in technical roles in telecommunication space. And in the early 2010s, I started moving into the multimedia, looking at early stage, what's now XR, and multisensory multimedia components. And I'm here on this panel today representing the TRANSMIXR project.
Wonderful, welcome everybody. And it's also great since EMIL, MAXR, XRECO and TRANSMIXR are all the projects that got agreed upon of one call that was carried out in 21. It's great to have you on site, and it's great to have PANEURAMA in the middle of us, even though it's not Horizon Europe, but Erasmus+. But of course, there's many disciplines that try to bridge this gap that you pointed out. Maybe, Neil, since you ended, do you want to give us a brief introduction into TRANSMIXR? I have your slides ready in a moment.
Sure. So I prepared plenty of slides in the event that they will be shared after this talk. So I'm going to be asking Volker to move through them quite quickly. But okay, so you can move on to the next slide. What I'd like to start off with is envisioning the position of TRANSMIXR at the end of the project's end of September 2025. And basically what we're doing in the project is trying to develop a suite of technological components in 4 different sectors: for cultural heritage, performing arts, news media, and news broadcast. So if we have a fantastic team, 8 media practitioners, and I see Cora here today from Laura, who are one of the XR productions companies. We have 7 research centres and universities, and we have 7 technical industry partners, and we have a lovely balance across the team in terms of scale. So to give a feel for where we want to be at the end of September 2025, in terms of the cultural heritage, what we're trying to address is how can we democratise immersive storytelling for the cultural heritage organisations. So the situation as it currently stands is cultural heritage organisations have to go to production companies, get one-off productions produced for them, which are very expensive. There's a lack of high-quality 3D assets, and there's a significant issue in terms of communications between production companies and the cultural heritage organizations. So what we're trying to do in the context of this use case is empower curators from the cultural heritage to adapt the actual content that is in XR experiences. So they don't have to all the time go back to the production companies. We enable them to recreate or adapt XR experiences based on data, right? Similarly, in terms of the communication problem, we see the potential of social XR as a good vehicle at the pre-production stage between the cultural heritage organizations and the curators to communicate effectively. In terms of news media, so news media organizations need content quick, and they actually need content that's reliable, right? They also are really interested in trying to provide new types of experiences to their end users. So what we're trying to do in TRANSMIXR is deliver a suite of technological components in terms of sourcing content, creating content, and then allowing them to experience content in different ways. And a key element here is working with the journalists to define new workflows that will allow them to work with these emerging tools. What we see now is that some early versions of beta versions are the tool available, but you need a certain skill set on how to interface with them. So we're trying to define workflows around this. Similarly, in terms of the news broadcast case, we're working on delivering a distributed studio, which will allow through XR one director or one producer to operate to many different devices. So if you go into a news broadcast studio now, it's an incredibly complex environment, many different monitors, many different interfaces. So what we're trying to do is use XR as a vehicle to create bespoke interfaces for the particular role. And lastly, one of the most exciting areas is in the performing arts, where they're really trying to push the boundaries of the technology. There's a whole suite of issues here in terms of lack of funding, lack of skill set, lack of awareness of what's possible with the technologies. So in TRANSMIXR, we have a heavy emphasis on the user. So we're applying a living labs approach, and we've solicited the opinions over the last couple of months of more than 200 experts from industry, end user groups, via requirements analysis, via design workshops, etc. And here's what we have identified. There's gaps in terms of workflows, so opportunities for social XR, opportunities to help the professionals in terms of how they can use these technologies to communicate complex concepts. And what TRANSMIXR will deliver is this suite of technical components, what we call the TRANSMIXR dashboard, which will facilitate search, source, content. Once we have sourced the content, we can use different types of AI techniques to enhance and make 3D representations of this content. Social XR systems for enhanced collaboration. We're obviously making contributions in terms of standards and volumetric video and so on and so forth. So we're a little bit tight on time, but this is what the project is about. It's about a suite of technical components. It's about a suite of workflows that empower the use case groups that we're working with, cultural heritage, performing arts, news media, and news broadcast, to engage with XR technologies.
Well, thank you, Neil, for that overview. And we'll give it a try with the PowerPoint presentation from XRECO. If you can switch back to my laptop, please. Oh, that looks good. And Nico, just let me know when I should advance to the next slide.
Yeah, if you could start that video, actually. Because to confine me to not talk 30 minutes, we had to record it.
We've got a dynamic team of 20 partners spanning 12 countries. XRECO is all about revolutionizing how we use XR media content. Instead of it being a sporadic experiment, we're making it a seamless part of the media industry. Our cutting-edge technologies make creating XR content a breeze, no coding expertise required. Whether it's crafting, organizing, or sharing your content, our platform handles everything from licensing to fair payment. Let me paint you a picture of what's possible with XRECO. Imagine the Palace of the Republic in Berlin, demolished in 2006. Using an old helicopter footage from 1991, we've reconstructed the entire structure and its surroundings, including the 15th century Berlin Cathedral. But it doesn't stop there. Our platform offers simple tools to create immersive experiences in augmented or virtual reality. Now you can narrate captivating stories about historical landmarks like never before. And guess what? With our user-friendly templates, you can easily add interactive elements like rotating or scaling. Plus, spice up your narrative with text, images, original sounds, or videos to breathe life back into these iconic buildings. Join us on xreco.eu and our social media channels.
So for some context, I brought you 3 more slides if you want to move on. So this is basically to support people who are not in the XR community yet. Media creators, news broadcasters, but we also have a use case on tourism and automotive, to make it easier for them to get there, to get a start, to create things. So we're creating an ecosystem to create, manage, and share content, and the content is 2D and 3D assets, and then also to create XR experiences with a suite of tools. So as siblings are, we are similar but yet individually different. So if you go to the next slide, we can. So and the main point about that is you saw that also in the quality of the model. Obviously, we're trying to improve the quality of the model, but it's not so much about recreating reality around you in life-size models, and this is far too big. The screen, you see all the flaws. It's more about getting things started, and for smaller models it works quite well if you go on. So the XRECO value chain has 4 blocks. One is searching content, so make sure that you find the stuff that you need and organize your own repositories, but also use the meta search to explore external repositories. Then to use this 2D source material to create 3D assets based on nerve structure for motion, also experimenting with Gaussian splatting. And then also human reconstruction, so volumetric capturing on a very like affordable base. And then use these assets to create XR experiences, and that can be VR, AR, or combined products. We also use it in traditional virtual studio productions. And then finally, once you created something, whether it be assets or full experiences, you can license them properly, so fair copyright management, and then sell or buy on the marketplace. So that's basically the 4 main aspects of it. And for whom are we doing this? There are 5 different types of users. So that would be searchers, people who would want to organize their own repositories because they have so much content that they can't find stuff properly, and especially with XR experiences, you know, finding and searching 3D content in the traditional CMS, not so easy. So we're organizing that. The takers would basically be people who want to use such experiences but don't want to bother about producing them. So, you know, we produce them, you buy them. Transformers transform 2D content to 3D. Creators, that would be the last one. Creators use these assets to create experiences. And givers can be on all the levels from 2D source material, 3D assets, XR experiences. So you're basically selling on the platform so that the takers find something to take. That's basically the overview, and we're doing this on the next slide. We're currently working with 4 different use cases, just as an example, but of course you can also use this in education, cultural heritage, etc., etc. So we're focusing on news media. We have 2 cases in news media and 2 in tourism and automotive. And if you want to know more, then please visit xreco.eu and you will learn a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. And that platform is then open sourced, or you will host it and people can, so the idea of having a shared space that doesn't belong to a large corporation outside.
We have 2 options. So the original idea was that especially large providers of content would want to keep things to themselves and not share their 2D assets or whatever they create easily with others, but then go to the marketplace. But then we found that many of the people we talked to from the community would be interested in, well, we don't want to set up another server and to set up another system that we want to, you know, take care of. But we want to take and give to a platform that somebody else takes care of. So we have both.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think, you know, if there's any question, because we're going into some different topics, and if you've joined in the discussions earlier, you have a good overview of all these projects now, and raise your hand and we'll include you. This is not strict, the panelists chat among themselves. Don't be shy. So I think the first question I would have for all of the project coordinators here and representatives. So now you've given this great opportunity to fulfill what you've written in the proposal, but as things move at incredible speed, do you think, where do you see yourself in what you proposed in the project? Do you see any recent development that kind of diverges from the path that you makes you diverge because of technological circumstances, or do you see yourself on track, or are there other obstacles that we should be overcome, or where you need support? Or I'd just like to get your point on that.
Do you want me to start? Yeah, okay. So obviously, the rise of AI and especially generative AI plays a huge role. but is also a pain and a relief at the same time. Because especially for us, Deutsche Welle as a news outlet, whenever there's hallucination involved, like we used to call it interpolation, like if there is something missing, the machine kind of fills the gaps. But then it's not facts anymore, right? So the machine made this up to make it look good. And for us in the news, it is less about making it look good, it is about the actual facts. That is one of the core claims at Deutsche Welle. So we're not talking about, we're not giving you what you want to hear or see, but we're telling you the truth. So in that case, dealing with even a 3D reconstruction of a building, so even if the roof, because we only have images from below, and the roof is missing, and that is made up by AI, well, it's not a depiction of the truth, right? So that is really critical.
I think it's on.
Yeah, I would support that. I think we had initially in the proposal subtly talked about potential of AI for creation. It was in our minds, but it's quite exploded since, actually, creating some positives, but also creating some negatives in terms of the expectation that exists with some of these technologies now in terms of what they can deliver is not the reality from what we see in the project, right? To interface with these kind of technologies, you need a certain level of competence and expertise, and even in this stage then, in the context of consuming it via headset, there's still lots of work to do to bring it forward. I don't think some of the marketing around this has helped the narrative in terms of this piece, right? The second big challenge that has become obvious to us, maybe not some for others, is around a kind of a common language to communicate between this diverse group of stakeholders. And this is why we're trying to work on some of the workflows in the project to try and facilitate and, as I said, empower the use case domain experts to engage with these technologies. So we have more of an emphasis, I think, on those two pieces than at the very beginning.
I think when it comes to MAXR is slightly different because we're looking at infrastructure and protocols and standards and also tools. So the rise of AI and generative AI and so on may expand what we can do. It doesn't actually change it. And if anything, it makes it more relevant because, as we were saying before in the presentation, open source code and standard protocols, those are going to be even more relevant because there is more need for standardized means of communication when it comes to new technologies. So great, we like that. We like expanding to the next project then.
Yeah, I think in terms of PANEURAMA, so what we do, if you haven't seen any of the previous talks or weren't here at the beginning, PANEURAMA, we aim to keep students and education up to date with industry needs. And with AI, it's changing rapidly. I mean, every week there's something new. We went from Sora to Adobe Firefly before that, and now Adobe's just released the Premiere Firefly version. If you haven't seen that, it's ridiculous. Video editing like that, right, with prompting, and it's going so fast, right? So our role as industry consultants, bridging that gap and having industry speak with education, is to ensure, and students especially who are frightened by these new technologies as well, that these are tools that you can use in your workflow. There's still a lot of regulation that needs to be done when it comes to AI, especially the generative AI side of things. And it's our mission to stay up to date with that. So as leaders as well and as educators, it's our responsibility to also be lifelong learners, to stay up with these tools, lead by example, be adaptable, be resilient to these technologies. And we do so by research, right? We ask the right questions, we talk to people, we have discourse just like this, but also through interviews, and we collect the data and we find out where these problems are, and then we try to fix them. And we don't know exactly how to fix them because it's new, right? But we will. There's a term that we like to use: is we will try, we'll test, we'll iterate, we'll learn from our own trials and errors, right? And there's a saying called "fail forward," right? When you're in the innovation space, which everybody up here is, if they're playing with XR and new medias, you have to fail. You have to take these risks. And yeah, we lead by example doing so. But it's very important that we promise that these students that we're taking through these educations, I mean, they're spending a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort, that we actually pave the way for them so they actually have an industry they can step into. We equip them with the right competencies. And how do you keep up with that within this ever-changing world? Well, that's our mission, so yeah.
And if we look at the big picture, where the XR is, I think it's a way healthier place than it was like a couple of years back when it was at the top of the hype curve. So now that's gone. The AI is on the top of the hype curve. XR is now in a stage where industry is actually willing to look for a small, innovative solutions that concretely improve their workflows and content and products a little bit. And like on the industry side, it's the AI used like in, let's say, like a big factories on how to maintain the machines and these sorts of things. Very concrete, something that the industry actually understands. Or then if we look at the broadcasters, it's the enhanced AR graphics. Maybe even something like the Finnish National Broadcasting Company had this big Roblox like broadcast, which went extremely well. But now they are in a position where they don't like expect XR to be something that is revolutionizing their industry totally. But now they're looking, oh, it's something where we can do incremental improvements on what we are already doing now. So I think that's a healthy place for companies then to pitch their products and ideas for industry partners. So I do like where XR is now compared to where it used to be a couple of years back.
Anna, you want to comment?
Yeah, two points based on my long experience as a project officer before. I think what you are discussing here is really the difficulty of the timeline of the way we function in the Commission, because in between the time you write a proposal, this is in between even the time we draft the call, it is published, it's already nearly 1 year, then you draft the proposal, it's 1 more year before it's evaluated, more or less, and then 6 more months to start the project, and by the time you finish the project, I think it's 6 or 7 years before. So of course the technology has changed. I mean, it's not only XR, which indeed is changing fast, it's for everyone. So I think this is a common, very well-known problem, honestly. I don't have a solution, but I do really acknowledge that it must not be easy for projects. And the second thing I would like to say is about this AI business and so on. I think that because indeed there was this long timeline when all the projects here, you have been selected in 21 from a call that had been drafted in 19, more or less, okay? I mean, at the time, we were moving from interactive technologies to extended reality. This was new. Okay, since then, we have moved to virtual tours and Web 4.0, for those of you who have heard about the communication. And this includes very much the convergence of technologies, which is exactly what you are discussing, which is XR plus IoT plus AI plus cloud computing plus microelectronics and so on. And so, I mean, I think we all go in the same direction. It's just that this is sometimes difficult because, okay, at the end of the day, we all have our constraints, I would say.
Yeah, thanks very much. So what I take from that feedback is we're mostly on track, right? And I had AI on my things of list to ask, so I'm not surprised it came up that early. But now let me ask whether or not you feel that the AI Act that just recently has been put in place is helping us here in Europe to have a clearer understanding of what and how we should work with AI, or do you feel that it is counterproductive in some areas?
Okay, so for us, there is one aspect in the XRECO project that I didn't mention, well, or only vaguely touched upon, and that is the licensing of the assets that we produce. And for that, we were actually waiting for some information and some decisions.
Legal advice.
Yeah. Now we have legal advisors, but on what are they supposed to advise? So
you're missing references to the situation.
And so similar to what I mentioned before, when we use 2D assets to create 3D assets, what does that mean in terms of copyrights? Is that somehow inherited to the new asset? And what role does AI play then? Because that was not produced or authored by a person. So what are the rules there, and what does that mean? I mean, we have had these discussions around the world for generated AI. So who is actually the author of that? The person who prompted it, or the people who created the technology, or the people, and that is where I would be coming from, the people on whose material the bots or the machine learning was trained on. So that was a huge thing that we have been, or that we are still dealing with. And yeah, that is certainly something that needed and still needs decisions on the policy and legal side.
Yeah, I think explainable systems are part of a solution for that challenge, to understand even if you have licensed material. So what has been used, to which extent, to create what? And my understanding of the AI Act is that you need to explain how your systems work. It's very relevant for security and self-driving cars and all that stuff. So, but still in creative industries, I think there's reasonable things in there that can help us shape this technology in a way that we can use it to the benefit of all, without having this situation where people feel left out. It's happening already. Yeah. We're seeing young talent that feels that they're not part of this development, and people have used their contents and their creative creation to create these systems that overrule them, and that should not be, in my understanding. I think it's a dangerous situation where we might lose talent that we urgently need for the future. But please, any other comments on that? Feel free.
I'll just make one comment on the explainability piece. So I think that's really positive. You know, if I listened to the talks earlier on about the financial support for third-party projects, and there was a kind of a trend towards applications within health, right? So if we think, going to the point about convergence between AI and XR and all these technologies, all of the data that you can capture on somebody as they're in an XR experience, right? You can work with this to understand why a particular intervention is providing utility to the patient or not, right? But in lots of cases to date, with lots of these approaches, we don't really know why they're working this way, right? So the explainability piece can help and aid clinicians, as an example, in the health space in this. So I think this is a really positive. And actually, going to the point about the position of XR, this is where I see going forward. It has major utility, which is domain agnostic. The actual data you can extract on, and I'm a human-centric researcher, the actual data you can extract on the user in a continuous manner as they're interacting with the kind of content. This is a really kind of powerful niche, and the explainability piece on this is critical.
Thank you. Anybody wants to comment further? Sarah?
Do you want to generalize the one? No technology is bad on itself. It's how we use it. So when it comes to AI, we as innovators have the job to explain it, to look into it, to implement it, to try it, test it. And there are innovations also in the space of what is the policy and the law and everything else, which will make sure that in the moment that AI becomes an integral part of day-to-day activities, standardized processes and so on, it doesn't damage anybody. But, and you know, at the end of the day, is generative AI. Creativity is somewhere else and is not a machine. Let's not forget that. I didn't do that.
It was me again. I'm still
and maybe just to
I'm still learning with my laptop.
Let's a bit continue from that idea that technology in itself is not bad. So before photographic cameras were invented, people were actually painting these like sideways portraits of people. And when then the photographic cameras came about, these people were devastated that this is totally wrong. Like now some kind of a machine is doing this job of like a handcrafted art. So as humans, we're repeating the same story with innovations and technologies. And obviously, we need to work all these issues out. But when technology is out of the Pandora's box, it's out. And our job is to get involved, especially as creative people, with all these concerns. Because if we're not, somebody else is. So that's why we need to get involved. We need to start utilizing these so that then we actually have some understanding to have this discourse with all these policymakers and industry bodies and investors.
And I think we can even, to some extent, improve the situation, as it were. When I studied history of arts, one thing that I learned was that all the painters went to see other art and to copy it. And that is kind of a skill that you learn, but you also take in the inspiration, and there is a subconscious or unconscious part in your creativity. Everything that you see, you somehow unconsciously put together, and then a new image comes to your mind, and then you, if you manage, you kind of bring that to an image. Now what we can do with the tools, and that's one thing that we do at XRECO, is to find out what were actually the sources. So what inspired this output, this asset that is created? What went into it? And what of that is made up? And what were the source materials used to create that? And even to the extent of relevance, where that again could fill a whole philosophical discussion on what is relevant. Like, is it the two pieces of information that were missing? Once it's missing, it's a gap. So if it's not there, it is very relevant to have these two. But then someone else provided 250 images. So is that more relevant or less? But in any case, we deal with these philosophical and ethical questions, but also with the numerical questions of how much did this source go into the output, and it is somehow measurable, but also explained what the measures were and how it is done, and that can even have a more fair copyright management because it explains where the things are coming from and what role they played. And in the subconscious, unconscious process of human creativity, that is hardly possible.
But do you expect, and that also picks up a bit what Sarah said, this our current understanding of human creativity, or what's understood as creativity, to change fundamentally, or in our perception and in our way of how we are creative?
I mean, human creativity, what us humans have is emotion, right? We have heart, soul, we have experiences, we have feelings, emotional intelligence. And dare I say, AI is not there yet, but at the same time, you know, I did hear a story about Google shutting down some self-thinking entity at some point, a couple of months, or this was a year ago or something like that, right? But let's not go there just yet, let's keep it positive. So I believe AI is a tool. I mean, it's things like Midjourney, I think it's empowering creativity, right? I think it's a beautiful thing for people who can't draw, or a beautiful thing for people who have imagination but can't put their, you know, expression and their imagination on paper. And now they can talk to a machine and they can direct it and it can bring all these things to life. Yeah, there's an issue with the generative AI. I don't know how we solve it. I do think, I do have an opinion on that, and I think blockchain is there to be used in a way to solve it. If we had a transparent ledger system that kind of connected everything and you could go back and see where these artworks were, but let's not digress there. And then I want to just touch as an artist as well as, you know, as an animator. If I'm animating a Lego figure, I'm still looking at reference that I've taken off YouTube to do a backflip and a karate kick, right? and I'm frame by framing and watching this and using this reference. And to your point, the subconscious, the art that I decide to draw on a paper today is based on everything I've seen in my life, right? It's there. It's not just out of thin air. It's something that I've looked at, I've felt, something that's resonated with me, that's touched me, and that I'm putting back onto paper. If you're a concept artist or a matte painter, usually what you're doing in the industry, you're taking photos of things or photos of the internet, photo bashing them together, and then you're painting on top of them, right? So this copying artwork and taking it from other places is what AI does, but it just does it so damn well and so damn fast. And it's not fully directed yet, right? And just look backwards on how fast it's gone in the last month, yet alone the last year, and then look back 10 years. Technology grows. To your point with the photographer, people still paint, right? So it's not replacing them. When movies came out, we thought theater, or they thought, I wasn't here then, they thought theater was going to die. But look at it, there's still live performances, and they are amazing. I went to the opera luckily, thanks to Christian, I don't know if he's here, he invited me to the opera on Sunday, and I went in alone, and again, I was thinking, and it resonated with me, that this AI will not replace this baritone and this pianist having this connection and this art, and you could see the passion, you could feel it in the highs and the lows and the intensity, and then the audience members around it, the community that it creates, right? Like, us humans have that, and again, I want to stay positive on it, because I could go into Boston Dynamics, fusing that with AI, and then go into Terminator, and when we're over there again. But bring that back, we humans have something special, and that's emotional intelligence, it's heart, it's soul, and I think that's always going to be the driver of technology. You, as an artist, as a director, as a creator, as an innovator, will always have that advantage, and it's up to you to choose the tools that you want to use, right? And so just finally close off there, that's what we're trying to do at PANEURAMA as well, is to encourage these students as well. Don't be scared. Yes, it's frightening. It's frightening just even seeing just the next Maya come out, yet alone Unreal or whatever, right? Like, oh my God. And now there's AI on top of that, right? So we're there to kind of inject that, I guess, comfort and foster proper education and make sure that, you know, yeah, it's a scary thing, but this is also what's so damn cool about being in this business and being in this industry, is being on that edge of technology.
Yeah, just on that, the AI is a tool kind of a thing. So I think I'm following AI development extremely close, and for example, on the image generation side, you know, the best guy creating AI photography is a fantastically talented, one of the best Finnish photographers. So I think when it's a tool, I would not be as a talented, like a content creator or creative person. I would not be afraid that now all of a sudden all these untalented people are better than me. Obviously not, because I've got the training and the experience and all of that utilizing this AI. But obviously I should learn how to use the AI as part of my toolbox. And what I'd be, as an educator working in a university, what I'd be a little bit afraid of with the AI is people taking shortcuts in actually becoming a fantastically talented and trained professional. Like, be it just people's writing and reading skills. Because with AI, it's so easy to generate text, but you only become a good writer by writing. So do we have the patience not to take the shortcuts when we are doing the training? Obviously, we need to add also AI training into as part of our educational things, but we need to make sure that we still, be it any industry, be it a programmer, they need to learn how to program. They're not going to be good AI programmers if they're not great programmers without AI. And same with the creative industry. So that's something that I'm a bit worried about.
All right, good input. Anne, do you want to tell us a bit more about the virtual worlds? I can. I'll do my best to get up your slides.
But let's try to simplify because I think we have seen enough slides today. So just go quickly, just to what I was talking. Maybe go next. Okay, I mean, I don't have eyes at the back of my head yet. I'm not an augmented human. So, no, don't worry, don't worry. No, it's just to remind you of what I just said before. So I think we try at the Commission as much as possible to support the development of all these technologies at EU level. And so, I mean, from the observations we made in the last, let's say, 2 years, I mean, we came to the conclusion that indeed we were moving towards this convergence of technologies, and we came with a strategy which is about a new concept, virtual worlds and Web 4.0. And this is what I wanted to say. And this is really, you know, this vision. So we are very much aware that Web 4.0 does not exist yet. I think Web 3.0 does not even exist completely yet. Okay, but this is really because we want to set the vision for Europe at an international level and to be able to prepare before the problems comes and before it's too late for us to take action. So this is really a wider long-term technological transition where physical and digital worlds will seamlessly blend and smart devices will communicate to each other to perform complex tasks. So this is exactly what I think you have been discussing about everything coming together. And I think this is going to be probably in your field something new as well, because you will be probably immersed in I don't know, a movie, a concert, whatever, in a way that we are not now if we do it digitally. I mean, we don't have the same feeling, I fully agree, but still, I mean, we are very close. I mean, I attended the ABBA Avatar show in London. This is nearly as good as my Depeche Mode concert 2 weeks ago in Cologne, but not yet. So anyway, just to give you this vision and to insist on this, because I think this is extremely important for the project as well, that when you prepare and when you do your work, even now, even if you have a contract, you have an Annex 1 and so on, you realize that there is really this next step as well on it. I think we can probably stop there, because I think I had some other things, but it's much better to listen to your input than, you know, to hear about this communication further. I mean, I'm around if you have questions, and you can find plenty of information on the web as well.
Thank you, Anne. And is it expected to then that there will be new calls in Horizon Europe that will go towards this?
Yeah. So I mean, the point is that in this communication that I mentioned, we will have a partnership. So I don't know if you ever heard about the European partnership on the Horizon Europe. We already have 49 partnerships, 13 really for technological things. So that's really an agreement between all the stakeholders represented in a private association and the Commission as a public administration. And we basically sign a kind of contract, and we commit to work together to define the future research priorities and so on. So in the future, this will be done through this way. So I had the slides where I just wanted to explain what the partnership is. But if you are interested, there is also the AR/VR Coalition. I mean, if you Google it or if you use any of your favorite search tool, you will find it. I mean, and you can apply as an institution, not as an individual, so that's important to know. And this is also a place where we try to have continuous discussion with you, the community, to help us designing the calls. So the first calls in 25, they are under preparation already. They are taking care of most of the inputs we had from the discussion also with the coalition. You can already find some clues in the strategic orientations document that was just published, I think, 2 or 3 days ago on the Europa website. And I mean, this is not a surprise. You will see very much this convergence of technologies visible in the coming calls, that I can definitely say. All the technologies we mentioned, I mean, going together.
Sounds very exciting.
Well, probably complicated, but exciting.
Any questions from the panelists? No?
No, I just wanted to jump on the concert reference you made. I thought that was really cool, because you said you went and saw a human concert first, but it wasn't comparable to Depeche Mode, which is a true... I
think the ABBA one with the Avatar.
The ABBA one, okay,
which is really great,
yeah.
But you are still missing, as you said, for the opera, the interaction.
Yeah.
So this is pre-recorded. But the day these things might get AI, and they might react to the audience, exactly, like a normal group would do.
Yeah. And my head went straight into Fortnite, where my son went in and saw a Travis Scott concert, for example, right? And again, it's just to speak about these extended realities. They are there in front of us now. You've got Roblox, you've got Fortnite, and these are metaverses in their own right, where our youth are in and playing and being, you know, inspired. But these are also the builders of the future. And it's just interesting because, you know, it's experimental, right? And, you know, if you're looking from a business perspective, Travis Scott and Fortnite was a successful experiment. Millions of people were able to come in and listen to your music as an artist. It's a new way of reaching young audiences. And it's just incredible. And we need more experimentation like that. And again, it comes back to being innovators. You have to take risks. You have to fail. You have to make mistakes. You have to make a lot of mistakes. And we have to figure out the regulations along the way. Playing with AI, blockchain, Web3 or Web 2.5, I would also say we're not there yet. We're on our way. There's a lot to be done, and you have to disrupt. You have to shake the cage that's there. And for regulators to come in and start making rules and making it a safe space for us to play and build in.
Comments on that? No. Any audience responses? Anything that you? Oh yeah, here's one. Can somebody from the? Are we out of microphones? No.
Thanks so much. Would you think that regulation could also get in the way of this experimenting, so that it actually not becomes a safe but too over-regulated space? Might that be an issue too?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's dangerous, right? It's a dangerous, like if you could, let's talk about like Web3 and decentralization. Like I don't believe in a fully decentralized internet, for example. I think it's too dangerous because I think there's a few rotten apples will spoil the whole bunch, and you've seen that. I mean, we saw that when the internet came out in the early days, right? A lot of people coming in quickly, trying to make money, and the bubble burst, right? And people said internet was going to be a fad. Well, look at us now. We can't live without that thing, and it's just driving everybody's business who's sitting up here, basically. We need it. Similarly, and that's going to be the same with every technology, right? Like as you said, XR is finally in the space where people are like, hey, it's good now, and there's a lot of data behind it, a lot of great user cases behind it. It's got a place, it's got a fit, a market fit. It's not adopted by the masses yet. I think it's more B2B spaces now because those technologies are really expensive. But then you can then go, okay, Pokemon Go. Right, which was an incredible XR, AR experience that had massive success, right? So yes, I think regulation can, but you also have to, I mean, so for me, working in the blockchain space, you have to sit in the gray area sometimes, and you have to walk a really dangerous line, and if they come and tap you on the shoulder, then you got to go, okay, we have to regulate now and be careful. But you have to also be willing to dare and take those risks, because that's where you're free to kind of disrupt, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't have the...
Yeah, at least it's not currently over-regulated for sure. Yeah. so currently there's a freedom to do almost whatever you want. And that's why it's important that there are like universities and responsible companies looking into developing new things. So as an example, I started in our university this project where we are virtualizing our professors. So we are now like doing virtual avatars of our professors where we can then do text to video things from them. But at the same time, we're looking into like going through it with our legal department so that they actually own their virtual avatar. So when they leave our employment, they actually get their assets with them. We're doing contracts where we regulate that when they then leave us, we can't just continue their career in our university as virtual entities.
Marcus, what would you do if in 5 years from now you've spent a lot of effort on creating AI systems and your students tell you like, this virtual professor just is really great, you know, he answers pretty much all of my questions, and then he goes to another university, and you know, are you sure that this is what you want to do?
It's the same risk as with anybody in real life. You know, you hire a fantastic person, obviously that's a fantastic for your company, and when they leave, it's easily a big disruption. But hopefully it's something that, you know, if you've cultivated a great relationship with them, then that relationship still continues when they're somewhere else, and then your network grows. Then you can do new projects with them, even though they are in another country, in another university, in another company.
Yeah, you could have a part-time contract with him and have the avatar still running. Maybe that would be an option. But I mean, it's just the play that, and that was what fascinated me a lot with the Avatar tour, without having seen it, but of course having listened to it as a kid. That there are these new use cases that perfectly make sense, a lot of sense, in our distributed and networked world. And XR are at the core of it, in my understanding. And I think this is a big motivation for innovation and research. So.
If I can just add, I had a lovely chat with the CTO of Digital Domain yesterday. I forget his name, so I hope he's not in the room. It was Hanno, I think. But you know, in 5 years' time, they reckon they're going to be able to replicate humans one-to-one digitally, right? And the uncanny valley is still there. If anybody's, we're close, but with AI, it's going to accelerate that process, right? You're going to be able to photogrammatize, capture yourself, and then put you in there, and then put a large language model behind it, right? And now feed it the data based on you. I mean, you're going to have these digital personas that you can talk to. And what resonated with me is because I'm working on a digital AI athletes project where we bring athletes to life. Legends live forever as a concept, right? Like you'll be able to. He was talking about bringing Marlon Brando back to life, for example, right? And now you could have all those great actors come back in, and there's enough data out there now to feed the models so they act and move just like them, right? So someone like Bruce Willis, who's going through a terrible thing right now, he could extend his career now, and et cetera, et cetera. We could bring Elvis back and then slap that on an Apple Vision Pro, maybe, and then a couple models down the ride where it's going to be high fidelity, and you're standing there with your favorite actor having a conversation, or your favorite athlete, or whoever it may be, or maybe a loved one that you lost long ago, and you can now meet them again. I could meet my grandfather or something like that, right? Like there's just so many amazing, scary, but also incredible use cases for this technology, and yeah.
I mean, just one word about one of the things we are working on are regulatory sandboxes. So we are, for the moment, establishing with member states the idea of having these places where we can try all these very new innovative technologies and identify the regulatory gaps and see exactly what needs to be done, because it's moving so fast. I mean, there are already some in place for AI, but we would really like to have some in place for XR and virtual worlds in the near future to really test exactly all the things you just mentioned. But it's not an easy thing to settle, but I think it would probably make sense, yes.
Question in the audience, yeah.
Hi, my question is regarding the legal counsel that you got for the technology that you're working with, because I come from a public institution and we are also developing projects that involve generative AI, and we're using, for example, Stable Diffusion, which is currently embroiled in a lot of legal battles. And we really don't know where to go with this, because we obviously want to keep developing our project, but everything is so fuzzy that we really don't know where to go with this. Who is the author, where things are going to go? Like, what are your thoughts, for example, in like fair use, move to like Gen AI in fair learning, for example? Like, do you have any insights on that?
My experience with legal advisors is that they are really reluctant to, generalize. They always want the case-by-case decision. So that's basically what we have to do. We, the use case partners, come up with an idea. We want to do that. And then we check, first of all, with our own legal departments, are we allowed to do that? So what are like the analog, the traditional rules? Can we do that? And then once we say, yes, we can do that, now what would be the legal aspect of involving these technologies and to some extent AI? And then so we have two partners. I'm saying two with three fingers because my partner coordinator is actually also a lawyer in media rights. So there's a third person, but two partners who actively focus on this, but they really refuse to generalize because it is always a case-by-case decision. So, but yeah, there are these situations where you're using a technology and you don't know if the technology might even be shut down due to some cases that they have. Well, the only advice is redundancy. Try other tools that do similar things so that if they are shut down, you have something else to do. But otherwise, even the lawyers in my project would not say something, would not make a decision. So,
yeah, I think it's probably too early. There will be cases, and those cases might be used as references. I can say I'm very happy with different legal advices that we consult, software development, but also AI. I'm happy to share this information with you if you're interested. My understanding is that as of today, a machine cannot have a copyright, which is a quite clear statement when it comes to a generated content. How that behaves if everything that you gave the machine to train its model from is based on your creation or content that you have the copyright or the ownership for, then it might be different. It's still a gray line. But the moment you change that, the output, and add your own note to it, then there's also a change in ownership. How much that affects the original creation is still not exactly ruled out from my understanding. So there's lots of movement in these topics. It's very interesting. I think we just have to wait a little bit to see where we are legally, and the legal aspects might change from Europe to other parts of the world, right? That's certainly the case also with the AI Act.
May I add something? Let's not underestimate the value of that collaboration between the policymakers and the innovators, because we feed into each other. To what we want to do, can we do it, what problems, what issues, what challenges may generate. And on the other side, if we don't share that information of what we're looking into and what we're using these tools and what tools we're developing with the policymakers and with the regulators, regulations will never be right. And at the end, the history of art is full of disruptors. And you look at Picasso, hey, I want to put two eyes on the same side of the face. Things are always new and are always unexpected, which is fine. And that's why we do need this collaboration. And I think we're doing pretty fine, because we have a lot of support into looking into how we use AI, how we use Gen AI, and what we can do with it. And that is coming from public institutions, which means that they're unlikely to shut down innovations, research, or an entire area of technology because of policy. They're more likely to generate policies that help us and enable us using the innovations we've developed.
Yeah, well, fantastic. I could go on forever, but we don't have that much time. And I have so many things to ask you. Let me quickly ask you, would you say that when we talk about extended reality technologies, services, applications, that they can help us for a more sustainable future to reach the Green Deal or not? You mentioned NFTs, Chris. I'm not sure if that is the most... Still uses a lot of energy, right?
Yeah, but so do render farms.
Speak in the microphone. Microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. They do.
I agree. Yes, but
it was also a stigma that's been cast on it as well, in some regard. So I mean, the render farm industry, yeah, we should be more green. We should be more sustainable. Will XR help? Sure. I think so. I mean, from a virtual, you did some research on virtual production, didn't you? Not?
Yeah.
What were your findings?
It was early, but these numbers were there were other reports coming after us, and they stated the same. So yes, when you refer to the render farm, the old-fashioned way of rendering stuff offline, I think you can do a lot, but the skill set's missing. Skill set is totally different than creating something in real time and making it look great than post-production, rendering, going into comp and painting over until somebody says,
And this is also a really heavy area of our focus with PANEURAMA, for example, is focusing on real-time engines and getting students equipped with these technologies that are safe. Like if you're looking at sustainable, I mean, with Unreal Engine, you can get something out of the box that looks amazing, almost 90%. You probably want to still go and click render at some point, but the technology is just getting better and better as we go. But yeah, green energy, that's a whole different debate.
I think it's connected. We probably, compared to other industries, creative industries is still not using expensive amounts. I mean, if we look at steel industries, right, they use a lot compared to us. I saw some numbers. But I think it's not that difficult to reduce our footprint. I mean, we've started years ago to really closely measure and tell students when they're a bit above the usual use of energy. It's mostly the render farm. And point them at other technologies that they could use. And the thing is, they're really interested. Sometimes they then realize that the challenge is bigger than they thought. And still, when we talk about these virtual production challenges, it is a huge technological challenge every time we run one. And then before we can be creative, there's so many technological obstacles we need to overcome first. But I think with all these projects and all that effort and the support from the Commission, you're on a good path, you know, it can succeed.
Can I just add to that, because this conversation is ending now, that there will be or soon, sorry. I'm gone. No, there will be a conversation later, a fishbowl conversation, where we are talking about these things and more at what, it's at 3:45 and the Raumtaubingen, yeah, the fishbowl, where we'll be discussing with students and industry. So I invite everybody to come, please, because the more the merrier, and it's an open discourse. We would love to hear from you as well as us and you.
Yes, so I think we're coming close to an end. Is there any wish, anything you would like to express in this round, what you would like to see happening in the next years among us as carrying out projects, doing research, maybe from the Commission to make our work easier or simpler? Say it now.
Yeah, I will just now stop, I promise. Sorry, because I'm holding the mic. What my wish is more a collaboration between industry and education. I think it's very clear that there's a gap, and I think it's hard because there's business models tied to both, where resources are tough. But luckily, with an Erasmus grant that we've got, it's amazing because it opens up so many doors. We did have some slides, but you've seen them probably, where it was seeing these partners coming to the table, and people are willing to actually come and try to solve this massive growth, exponential growth in technology, and how we best equip students and or lifelong learners, even, right? Like even us as industry veterans, we have to adapt and we have to be resilient and we have to learn new tools all the time. So having a proper discourse, a proper connection between industry and education facilities is absolutely crucial. That's where all the research is done. That's where we'll get all the data. That's where we'll find out really how we can, best equip us for a sustainable future.
And when we've got the Commission here present, I'd like to...
I'm not the Commission. I want to make it clear.
Representative. Is that correct?
More or less.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So
employee, I would say.
From this EMIL project, something that which has become really evident is that, because we try to bring together the technological companies and then the companies from the content side. And we were quite a few times struggling with these startup companies from the content side, because they're not quite as established or financially stable as on the technological side. And in this co-innovation project, we need to be quite strict. The European guidelines are quite strict on that, and then because when we are coordinating the project, that financial risks of this FSDP project is quite heavily on the coordinator. So that kind of was, in my opinion, a little bit unfair for some of good content ideas.
Very good ideas.
Some very good ideas that I think have a really nice financial potential in the long run as well. And that is something that, you know, I'd love to see that we somehow find ways where we can also bring the content side and creative side, do these development projects and Horizon funding things in a more better way that understands their speciality and where they're coming from.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would go with Sarah and say we are already in a good place. There is regulation, but there is still freedom for innovation. I totally love the idea of the sandbox, because we need to explore, we need to find the boundaries. Unless we go there and touch the electric fence, we won't know where it hurts. We won't know where the boundaries are unless we really get there. So it's important to have that space. So that would be the only thing. It's good that it's already there. The only wish would be that it remains like that it's not like restricted before we get to the boundaries. But otherwise, I think we're quite good.
Wish list. I think not so much a wish list, but I think to kind of solve some of the things that were mentioned there, and I touched on it earlier on, is around this kind of more of a common understanding of what's possible, what direction we're going between the different stakeholder groups. It sounds very basic and fundamental, but I'm convinced that this is still a major issue in terms of even within technical teams, we're using the same language to mean different things. You know, I think, and it becomes much more complex then when you have non-technical groups as part of these conversations, which is an essential thing. I think the sweet spots of, you know, innovation are when all the different groups come together. But I think a kind of a barrier to that at the moment is around this kind of common language or a common understanding. So if we could kind of overcome this, I think it would address some of the points that were made a little bit earlier.
Okay, I think we are extremely lucky to be able to collaborate with creators, with technologists, to be able to experiment and have a financial support that allows us to offset the risks. My company is a very good company. We'll never be able to devote that many resources to innovation if it wasn't for grant funding. And we wouldn't be able to develop the right tools without the collaboration with the creative partners that show us what is it that they need. So I think this all is good. And I think that what is important is that we just keep doing it and we do more of it. So welcome to the having to find a common language to speak with the partners and the collaborators. Welcome to the challenges of the policy, because we can make it better. It's probably because of my background of having always worked in research for production technology. I like the challenge. I like the issue. I like the not knowing how to do something. Without that, it's all boring and samey. And we're not done for it. Anybody on this area is done for it. So that's all.
I just want to say something, because I have a wish list as well, but I think I would like to see more projects doing what you do, because I love this slide. I love the way you have organized this. I mean, unfortunately, it's not always the case that all our projects are working so closely together. And I think what you are doing is exactly what is needed. And that's why I'm so happy to be here today, because really, congratulations. This is really, I think this is the way to go. I mean, you have more if you share. And thank you for that.
Great ending works. Thanks. Yeah, you've been wonderful panelists. I think we could still have time for questions from the audience if there are any. And if not, please, it's the last chance now. At 2 o'clock, we're reconfiguring the expo area to visit all these exhibits, because after that we'll do our 8x8 meters location-based experience. So we'll rearrange a bit for that. Yeah, I'll be around all week, so you can catch me and ask me and yeah, follow up. And I don't see any questions, no? Well then, thank you very much. This went by very fast, right? It was almost more than an hour. It was more than an hour. A lot of things to discuss, and I didn't even I still have questions, but that's to follow up. Yes, Thank you very much.